Hi, my name's Nick Best and I'm the Managing Director here at Astranti, and I'm also the person that's recorded over 10 hours of video for you on how to pass your strategic case study exam. And this sample comes from one of my favourite videos, because what's happened is that CIMA have released an analysis of a real student script, and the examiner's gone through saying, well, this is what's good about this script, this is how this script can be improved. And that gives us a real insight into what the examiner is looking for. And therefore, it's really important that you are incorporating those lessons into your script as well. So this sample just gives you a short section of the whole video, but hopefully there'll be some really useful lessons for you just from this sample alone. So I'll leave you to the video itself. So here's the first section then. Here is the requirement. So Stella, the finance director, so your boss effectively, has asked you to prepare a briefing paper. Notice then how we've got the briefing paper format. Of course, that's typically given to you in the exam already, and you don't have to worry too much about that. Covering the strategic benefits. Okay, so the strategic benefits of Rio expanding its e-business activities. Now, of course, in this case, we've not looked at the pre-scene, and of course, the benefits to it of e-business were in fact, they were in this case related to some points that had been made in the pre-scene. But without knowing that, we can think quite broadly about, well, what are the benefits of e-business? We can think, for instance, about online sales, and we can say, well, opportunity to access a wider market, to keep your overheads down, because actually you just have a warehouse from where everything is shipped. You don't have to have more and more stores that are all got big overheads and lots of staff in those stores. You could do something like, you could see something in store and then go and buy it online, perhaps if they didn't have your size in the store. You can do things like delivery to a store if there's one nearby, so you can therefore keep postage costs down, and so on and so on. So you can see the types of things that we would have from that perspective. Okay, and we'll see what the students kind of coming up with here. But notice, probably more important than just what the content is notice that this is where the second requirements we saw up in the introduction, the examiner talked about there being a second requirement. So notice here that it goes on to say she has specifically mentioned that the briefing paper should identify the strategic risks of the proposal and how to deal with them. So that's the second requirement, and of course there are two sub-requirements for there: strategic risks and how to deal with them. So let's go down and have a look at the script itself then, and look at the examiner's first comment, which is that it's pleasing to see the candidate is using headings. So let's have a look at the headings that the candidate had in this case then. So we've got one just here. Okay, the ones that are in purple are just the ones that relate to the comments on the right hand side, by the way. So actually, as I'm going down, do you know what, there aren't very many headings. Okay, so there's another one just down here. So notice that, and this would have come out of the pre-scene information, is that e-business is wider than just the internet, and this candidate has very nicely picked up on that. And extranet, the system of linking in with your suppliers, is also this upstream and downstream e-business, whereby you're linking with your suppliers and they're able to do things like invoicing on your website and so on. You're able to do ordering with them. And so notice that the student has got the wider benefits of e-business in here. And notice how that, you know, the examiner here is some candidates only focused on the internet sales and admitted the extranet. So they were only thinking upstream and not downstream as this goes. Now, that is a very specific theory point, but you should know that point from your E3, more E3, P3 studies, and therefore it's answering the relevant question. But it is nice to see, because I'm really talking about headings here, it's nice to see headings for that as well. And then coming down, we've got the strategic risk of the proposal and how we can actually manage that. Personally, I would probably split those into two. It depends how you're going to structure it. Do you have risk, how we manage that risk? Do the next risk and how we manage that risk, in which case that heading is perfectly fine. what personally I definitely like to see is a lot more subheadings than this. I'd like to see every single clear, because the problem with a script like that is we've got lots of points, but we don't know where each clear specific benefit is coming. Is each of those paragraphs a new benefit? In which case what I'd like to see is a little subheading coming in here and another subheading coming there, another subheading coming in here. Because it may well be actually that 2 points are closely related, in which case we only need a heading here, and then we don't need that one just there. Okay, you get my point, which is that from a marking point of view, it's really useful to see the structure of each of those subpoints. And what I'm really pleased to see is that to further improve, this is what the examiner is saying, use subheadings for each paragraph to highlight the benefit discussed. So nice to see that the examiner is realizing the benefit of that. It's also interesting, one thing you may notice if you look at any past exam questions, the real past exam questions often don't have headings and subheadings in them, and it's nice to see the examiner actually saying almost like, okay, yeah, my answers don't have it, but I do like to see that in candidate scripts. So slightly contradictory in some respects, but it is very important that you do those subheadings. Much easier to mark, and also really focuses your points as well. Already, so I can see here, I don't know how many benefits are listed here or what the key benefits are. It's that kind of thing that's not so clear from this particular student's script. So let's have a look at this paragraph just here. And I'll just read it through because there's some nice points in this. So, another strategic benefit of increasing our internet platform. Actually, my first point on that first line, is when you have headings, you avoid that description. Okay? And so if we had a heading something like, competitors are already doing this. And so my heading would be something like, keeping up with competitors. Okay, then we don't need this big long 2 lines. We can get straight into the phrase stores like ASOS. Okay, and so actually that means you can save yourself time by writing headings. I have had people in classes in the past say to me, but I'm wasting time by writing my headings. No, you're saving time, and this is such a good example of that, because we can write like 5 words in the heading and it saves us a line and a half. This student could have gone straight into stores like ASOS have built a whole business in this, I'd probably rephrase, in the internet fashion retail sector to make it sound a bit more professional. Our results have shown that we have managed to get 8% of our business from internet sales already. Okay, so first thing is, and the examiner points this out, is she really loves to see you quoting things from the pre-scene. This is very important. Likes the fact that the student has brought this knowledge in from the pre-scene. It's important that you don't just read the pre-scene and analyse the pre-scene, but you learn some key facts. On the day of the exam, you are not going to have time to go back and in detail find key facts out the pre-scene. There's just not enough time. It's a very, very time-pressured exam. With that in mind then, if you've learned some key facts like this particular one, you can just throw it in there if it's useful. But do put them in there. So do show knowledge of the pre-scene, because the examiner keeps on saying people are not using the pre-scene enough. Then we can look at this ASOS. So ASOS have built a whole business in this. Now, it's a bit weak, isn't it? It's kind of like, the question is, if I'm a marker here, it's nice to see that someone knows about a fashion business that have been successful. Okay, that's kind of nice. But wouldn't it be nice to say how ASOS have built that business, how successful they've been, have some statistics about ASOS. They've grown by 23% between, in the last 3 years, and they've done this through this, and this. And actually, we should be following ASOS's lead, or we will find we will get behind in this market and there will be established competitors and we won't be able to find a foothold. Something like that. So what you do is you give your here's my example, here's some detail of that example, this is what I've got to learn from this. And what's really nice is it's nice to see here that the examiner is saying, oh, could they give us some examples of how they've achieved success through e-business? So it's that detail. Now, the other thing about this, of course, is that I think the way I would have done this is actually in 2 paragraphs. So I would have started off by saying, generally keeping up with competitors and how we've got the business already. Then I'd have given an example of this is ASOS, and then I have a whole paragraph on ASOS. So I make my point, then I do my example in another paragraph, and then I'd be getting, it's much easier for the examiner to give you marks when you've got them in separate paragraphs. So I hope you found that clip useful. That's a clip out of a 52-minute video where we really go into full detail about what the examiner is looking for and how you can create that in the script that you're actually writing. So something for you to consider perhaps. I hope that you'll think that this, with the other samples, I hope you've watched the other samples. There are a range of other samples from my tuition videos on the strategic case study exam. So please watch all of those. If you like them, please sign up for my tuition videos, or indeed the course as a whole. You can just buy the videos themselves, you can buy the whole course, and the whole course contains mock exams, a pack about ethics, which is a really critical part of the exam. It shows you how to pass the ethics section. We do a very detailed analysis of the strategic case study scenario. We do an industry analysis. There's just a massive resources to support you and guide you to pass the strategic case study exam. So I hope that you've liked the samples, and I hope you'll consider either joining the course or just buying the tuition videos themselves.